Hi.
Can you? Okay, so you can hear me. Good.
Yeah,
How's it going?
it is good. How are you doing?
I'm surviving. Very busy, as you
Yeah,
can imagine.
I think so. You have a lot of
Everyone is
work.
very busy.
Yeah.
Okay, so um, let me quickly summarize um, my my observations. Um, One, it's immediately obvious when I open your report that you are not following the template and the formatting requirements.
Uh,
You have the wrong font. All of your headings are pre-messed up. You're not able to make an automatically generated table of contents with page numbers. So you need to fix that.
yeah, yeah, we are on that.
Okay, that's just silly mechanical things, but they are important. They will,
Of course.
we need to look good, so that sort of thing. Um, Moving on to chapter 6, although you do have, a kind of strategy for presenting the comparison of your results with previous results. I find it a bit difficult to follow. So you have a table in
Yeah.
which you have information from all the studies, and you talk about their population, you talk about their problem, and you talk about the methodology, and it goes on and on and on. And then finally we get to the results. But a lot of that information you really don't want there. You want to make it really clear what did you find that was the same, and what did you find different?
But we can use that table and then we can explain it further. I mean, in the
Possibly, but I would take away the information that is not
relevant.
relevant, and I would really focus on the information that is relevant. If it's relevant that they had a different population, then okay.
Okay.
But if it's not particularly relevant, so for example, if this here's the thing, you're looking at what people did. I'm working on spoken fluency, and if I remember correctly, so you're using community-based learning and spoken fluency. So we get down to all these guys who are presumably doing something similar. I might just get the situation here. So we start off, Okay, so these studies, these have been interested in second language processes by means of visual literacy, and none of them were interested in community issues using photographs. But are there any studies that have attempted to use community-based? You're interested in community-based learning. So has anybody else used community-based learning
Yeah.
to improve spoken fluency?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we have found different studies, but they focus on only one of the concepts that we have
Okay.
considered.
Then you might talk about things that were the important thing there is perhaps, did you find that community-based learning was an effective way of improving spoken fluency?
Yeah.
Okay, so then are any of the studies that you're considering also, have you compared your results in terms of we found that community-based learning was an effective way of improving the student's spoken fluency. Are there any other studies that have used community-based learning to improve any aspect of second language learning?
No.
Nobody's used community-based learning in second to improve
any
aspect of
we have we consider Amparo Clavijo, but she works with community-based learning, but she focused on community awareness. She doesn't have
so there's not a
language as a focus.
Okay. Did she? Amparo was not interested in whether the students improved their second language abilities?
They use the language, but when they share the results, they only focus on community awareness.
Okay, so as far as you know, no one has ever used community-based learning
for improving language
to improve second language. Okay. How about other people who've tried to improve spoken fluency?
Yeah, we have
okay.
found that.
So who else has tried to improve spoken fluency? Because what you can do is your two main things are we're trying to use community-based learning and we're interested in improving spoken fluency. And you're saying, well, nobody's actually combined these things before. So then the question is, well, how does do you find that community-based learning is effective, and does this support or contrast with what other people have found about community-based learning for second language learning? And do you find that you have improved spoken fluency as well or better as other people who have also tried to improve spoken fluency? Now, what people are going to be interested in is, oh, you've done something that nobody else has done before. How does it compare with what anybody else has done before, even if they're only using one thing? So other people have found community-based language learning is or is not effective for language learning. We also found that it is or is not effective. Other people have tried to improve spoken fluency. We were trying to improve spoken fluency, and we found that our efforts to improve spoken fluency were equally effective or not as effective, or
Okay. Yeah. So
because what people are, that's what people want to know, of course, is the answer to your research question. Is community-based learning an effective way of improving spoken fluency? And then, how does your use of community-based learning compare with what other people have done with community-based learning, even if they haven't looked at spoken fluency? And how does your attempt to improve spoken fluency compare with other people's attempt to improve spoken fluency?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what you really want to focus on in the comparison. So, I mean, often if other people have also tried to use community-based learning to improve spoken fluency, you would, the obvious thing is, our results were the same as theirs or different than theirs, or but if nobody's tried to do it, then you need to go and look at the individual constructs. Other people have used community-based learning and it was great, or they had these difficulties, or and we found it was good at the same things or not good at the same things, or we had the same difficulties, because you haven't got a study that's very similar to compare yours with. Equally you could consider the photography option. Other people have used photography to in various kinds of activity, but not with community-based learning, but also with second language learning. They found that photography was effective for certain things, like motivating the students. We also found that it was effective for motivating the students. Yeah.
Like how the other studies support ours?
Well, the other studies can't possibly support yours because they happened in the past. Mm-hmm. Your study could support their findings. Like if somebody else found that community-based learning is effective and you found that community-based learning is effective, that means that your findings support theirs.
Okay.
Yeah. It will only be possible for people who do studies in the future to support your findings. You can only support things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
But you could say, our findings, our use of community-based learning, we had a similar experience or a different experience to other people who've used community-based learning. Yeah. Or other people who've tried to improve spoken fluency. We had a similar experience to, we also found that the students, had difficulty with this, or this improved, or no, people used other strategies to improve spoken fluency and they had slightly different results. Our strategies, we found a different thing, or, whatever it happens to be. Or equally, other people have used photography with, to support student learning or language learning. They found that photography had, this kind of effect, or, the students liked it or didn't like it. We also found that the students liked it or didn't like it. Yeah.
So teacher, in this part, should we include or should we take into consideration the limitations that the other studies had? Or
I'm not sure about the limitations. You really want to focus on comparing the results.
Okay.
So I'm not, it depends. If the other study, these studies found that, well, we tried to use community-based learning and it didn't work. It was terrible. And you find, oh, but we found the community-based learning did work. Then you want to explain why. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you have two studies and one of them says, well, we found that community-based learning was effective for improving something, you would say we also found that community-based learning was effective, although we were focused on a different skill than they were. And there's not much to talk about there because they found it was effective and you found it was effective. If then the second study says, oh, we tried community-based learning, it was a horrible disaster, and you say, no, it worked fine for us, then that's something interesting to talk about, because you could say, well, study A found that community-based learning was effective, and our study found that community-based learning was effective, so why did this other study B find that it wasn't effective? What was different about our study and study A that made it effective, and what it wasn't effective for B? Because that's also interesting and useful to talk about.
Okay.
Or if other people found, we tried using collaborative learning to improve the students' spoken fluency and it didn't work. Spoken fluency didn't improve. And you say, well, we use community-based learning, not collaborative learning, and our spoken fluency did improve. You might want to speculate on, well, why was our community-based learning approach effective and this other person's collaborative learning approach not effective? So if you've got a difference, somebody else found that community-based learning wasn't effective, or somebody else found that their strategy didn't improve spoken fluency, but yours did, then you have something to talk about a bit. On the other hand, if you found that, everybody else found that spoken fluency was improved, and everybody else found that community-based learning was great, and everybody else found that photography was motivating, then you can simply say, well, this adds to the picture. We have a different combination of constructs and factors than anybody else has, but we found that these things could be used successfully as they have been used individually in other studies.
Okay.
But this is, generally this is what you want to do in the comparison. You
Right.
want to take your constructs, the different factors that were involved, and say, yes, basically we did things, even though we have a different combination, it's the same, or it's different, and if it's different, why is it different?
All right.
So that's what you want to do there in that section. So you could have a table, but I would, which is an interesting way of doing it, but I think you've got too much information that is not necessarily as relevant, because you talk about all their different populations. Well, if the populations aren't needed to explain some different result, then it's just going to confuse the reader.
Okay.
So take away anything. I would focus on saying, what's the same? And if it's the same, that's great. And if it's different, you have different results, then you want to explain the difference. And then maybe the population is relevant. They used community-based learning and it was terrible. We used community-based learning, it was great. Why? Well, maybe they had a population with different characteristics and our population was, better prepared or, something. I don't know.
Okay.
So if you have differences, you want to look for factors that could explain the differences.
All right.
Then, when you talk about the significance
Yeah,
of the
that
results,
section I think is very confusing for us.
okay, so as far as I could tell, you spent a certain amount of time re-summarizing your results. So, as a consequence, the analysis of the data we gathered revealed that the participants were able to reflect upon their community issues. But the results we already know. You talked about them extensively in Chapter 5. You probably summarized them again at the beginning of this chapter. The important thing is not, that the participants were able to reflect on their community issues, but why is it important that they were able to reflect on their community issues? Yeah? Or why, and if they were able to improve their oral performance as a result of using this strategy of community-based learning, why is that important? What should people do or think differently? What should we change? Maybe you say, this was effective. We should, change it. Other people in, teaching in English in Columbia should try this strategy so that their participants reflect more on community-based issues and also improve their spoken fluency.
Okay.
And we should do something different. People aren't doing this. So that's what the significance of the results are.